Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Be What You Don't See. My name is Bob Bartlett. I'm with the Ubuntu Fly Anglers Network and also with iFishiBelong. My preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I live in the Great Pacific Northwest, up here in eastern Washington state on the ancestral lands of the Spokane Confederated Tribes. In case you don't know who Ubuntu is, we're a group of black and brown fly anglers and environmental activists from across the country and Canada. And we are a program under iFishiBelong. And iFishiBelong is all about inclusion, making the invisible visible. So it's a wonderful partnership. I'm really thrilled to be doing this show with my new friend, Michael Peters, who is new to my life, but I feel like I've known you for a long time because we have mutual friends. I followed you on Instagram for forever, kind of stalked you behind the scenes, watching what you're doing and what you're up to. So again, welcome to this episode of Be What You Don't See. And hello, Michael.
Hey, Bob, how are you? And thanks for having me today. I really appreciate, you guys having me on the show.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. And I mean, what could be better? It's snowing outside. So, and it's cold up here in the Pacific Northwest. I would be on the river today, but no, I'm going to take the day off and stay dry and warm. You're down in Southern California, right, Michael?
Yes, sir. I'm here in Southern California. And it just happens to be sunny today. But I was actually out your way last week. I was, or a week and a half, I was out in Portland, up in Portland, rather. It was cold and it was snowing. So I can relate to what you're feeling.
Well, we make fun of our friends down in Portland because they live in the banana belt. It doesn't get serious until it moves a little bit further north. And we know what winter is. Those folks down there, they don't know. They go crazy. They shut down everything. They can't move. They don't have plows. So up here, we know how to do winter a little better than Portland. But anyway, so Michael, this is awesome. I am so glad that we have this time together. I've been looking forward to this for the longest time. And the other thing that people need to know about Michael Peters, besides being a fly fishing guide and business owner, is that he supports Ubuntu Fly Anglers. And as a matter of fact, sent me a little care package recently. So I'm going to, for this interview, going to don one of this. Oh my goodness. Whew.
Hey man, you make that hat look good.
Look at that. Is that not sweet or what? Now, if I only get rid of some of this gray, I'm beginning to look like an old fox. Dang gum, bro. And anyways, so Michael, tell us about who you are, man, and who your people are, where you come from, and that sort of thing.
Oh man, okay. Well, I love to fish, man. I guess it started when I was 3 years old. Grandfather actually, took me fishing on the weekends. During that time, he'd work all week and he'd take me fishing. And when I was 5 years old, my grandfather actually lived in Alabama, and I'd visit him. And during the summers, I'd have the opportunity to fish with him on the weekends. And then during the week, I was able to fish on his pond during the week. It was great, man. I fished in the mornings. I fished in the afternoons. And then I was able to fish with him on the weekends. I just never, ever got tired of fishing. So I just say I'm this guy that, or this fishing monster that my grandfather created. And I just, I love to share that passion, not only with others, new friends, strangers, but also my kids. My two boys are 14 and 17. And I started the same cycle for them. I started them fishing when they were 3 years old, and some of the pictures were a little earlier, and they were in their stroller, with the fish on. So it's just I'm just a guy that I love to fish. Believe it or not, prior to that, I actually was an athlete, and I knew that at 11 years old, I wanted to play professional football. I was always the fastest kid, wherever I went. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship, and play running back and kick return at Ole Miss. And that was something that I'd always wanted to do. I tore my knee up, my ACL, LCL, and MCL right before my senior season. So, I had to have another vehicle to jump on. So I finished with a marketing and a general business degree, and I was able to actually, believe it or not, I ended up in New York City on Wall Street, some years later, and I became a financial advisor. I learned that business inside out, but that was great. The fishing, part of me is something that I've always had, and it worked out well, for that other business, because I was able to sometimes, detach, away from that business and all of the chaos and just go, and fish. And so something that was such a passion of mine that I wanted to share it with others. And, here I am.
Yeah. But Michael, you did the big switch. I consider the big switch when you turn a hobby or something that you love doing into a business. When did you make the decision, or what prompted you to make the decision to go pro and to eventually own your own business?
Well, it started, I'd always, go out and organize these fishing trips, and I'd have these guys that would literally follow me to the end of the world to fish. Since I set these trips up, I'd always make sure that everyone was outfitted, everyone had everything that they need. And one day I was just kind of watching from afar. I was watching everyone catch fish. Everyone was having fun. And I was actually fishing through them. And I thought, you know what? I should be a guide. It's not too much more different than this.
Yeah. And then the rest is history, so to speak, huh?
Yes, sir. The rest is history. I actually ended up going to guide school to get polished up on something that I've been doing my whole life. But it was one of the, it was one of the best things I've ever done, because it really allowed me to come into this industry as a professional. And there are a lot of things that you need to learn as a guy. Fishing, with your friends is different than fishing a client in a professional setting. And there's just things that you learn, such as safety, crossing rivers with your client. And then you also learn, well, one of the things that I learned was it's not just about fishing. It's also about the experience. I mean, because as we both know, fishing can be slow sometimes. And if it's all about fishing and it's slow, then the client, a person you're fishing with may not be having a great experience, because it's all about fishing. But if you're having fun, even when the fishing is slow, and as we both know, that's when you get fighter strikes, when you're laughing and when you're having fun. So it just makes it a better experience, and it just works out better for everyone. And that was one of the more important things I learned in guide school. Even though I learned a lot, I learned a lot.
Yeah, how to bring in a full experience for people, and not just, as you said, about the catching. And I grew up like you. Catching was important because we lived off of what we caught. I grew up in the backwoods of Appalachia, man. We ate everything, every species imaginable. If you could catch it, you could eat it, right? And so making that transition, though, from subsistence fishing to fly angling has always been an important step for many of us, right? Because, at least in my experience, it moved us mentally away gently from needing to catch and keep to, wow, this is amazing. I can do this with a barbless hook all day, and I can put these fish back, come back and catch them another time, or I can keep fishing. That was my dad's thing. That's why he taught me fly fishing, because he wanted to extend the experience. He wanted to stay out there, not just catch the limit and go home, or fill up the stringer and go home. So that's an important evolution, I think, for a lot of us have experienced, going from subsistence fishing to actually doing having a more holistic experience on the river. There's always birds to listen to. There's insects to look at. There's rocks to roll over and take a break from it, right? And so I really appreciate that about it myself. And it's yeah, it was a huge turn in my experience, like you said. So, how has all of this then affected you, shaped your life and career? You know, this moving it to an industry and moving into the industry.
It's been life changing. It's
Yeah.
been an upward slope of growth, both professionally and personally. I mean, you learn so many things about yourself when you're, out on the river by yourself scouting for clients and you can't find a fish and, and that trip is coming up. And so it challenges you as a person to, it just pushes you and you find a fish and it's great. I mean, there's been times where I've had trips coming up and I was a day out and I'm almost about to call the guy and go, hey, I think we need to move this trip out. And, and I found them. And fortunately, the next day, everything worked out. But it's things like that. It just shapes you into a better person and it pushes you, it pushes you to the limits and it's great and it's so rewarding. Once you look back and you go, wow, just, a day or two ago, I was wondering if this was going to happen. You have that person that's excited and that had that great experience. So it's wonderful, man.
Take a minute, Michael, and tell me one of your favorite experiences out on the water. Do you have a favorite that comes to mind that you could share a story of your own?
You know what? There's so many.
I am sure.
But there's one that is really funny because it was actually one of the mock trips that we had in guide school. And it was one of those days where we go out with clients just to kind of give you, a more realistic picture of what's to come. I was really working hard, to put this guy on some fish and it was kind of slow. And the one time that he did get one and he missed it, and I went, and I go, and I got really excited. I thought, you can't do that. So it kind of taught me, kind of to keep my excitement, but to dumb it down a little bit in a more professional environment. So that was one that was.
I know we could just hang out and focus on. I'd love to just hear your stories because I know that you have guide permits in Yellowstone or in Montana and Alaska and all over. So I'm sure you could just maybe you should think about writing a book someday about your fly angling experiences. But that's awesome. I love those stories. So thanks for throwing that in there. So Michael, do you have any advice particularly for black and brown fly anglers who might also want to make this step? Because it is a big step, right? Especially if it's the only step. You don't have something else going on. So what would you advise young aspiring black and brown anglers who want to venture into this professionally?
I'm gonna give this advice to everyone because I just, along the way I've met so many different people and they've helped me out. But what I will say is just be yourself. And once you're yourself and you share your passion and your excitement with others, it becomes contagious. And not only can they see it, but they can feel it. And then they just want to be a part of it. They want to fish with you. They want to, maybe people may network with you. They may want to help you or you may want to help them. But most importantly, you build these friendships and you build these relationships. And it makes it easier to have access to things, no matter where you are. And I think that that puts you in a situation to open up more opportunities and to be more successful. I think that I built a network of relationships from Alaska all the way to Scotland and in between. And it's that dynamic of growth and just building relationships with people. And that's how it gets done.
So building relationships, and there might be for a lot of people a learning curve in that, right? Not everyone. My mother always talks about me, and she's 101 and she lives with us, lives upstairs actually, from where I'm sitting right now. And she She always jokes that I'm the type of person that could talk 10 minutes to a wrong number. You know, that's back in the day when we had a landline. And but I've often been accused of not knowing strangers, you know. So I find it easy to do what you're talking about, or at least, you know, it's not a challenge to make new relationships. I just like connecting with folks, right? But, you know, if someone's a little bit more reserved at that, it might take some tutelage, might take some mentorship to help them
Yeah.
get to that place where they're comfortable building those networks, like you say, because they are relationship based. Totally, I totally get that. So I'm hoping that one of the other things that we can do in the future, those of us in this industry from various angles, be more conscious of helping and mentoring and supporting young folks who maybe are not as outgoing, find it easy to talk to people, that we can share what we know. And I know you're that type of person, but I'm just saying that that's an important role that can't be lost for some of us who have managed to be in this for a long, long, long time, right? And we know what it takes to be able to pass that on, to be willing to just share names and places and contacts, you know, to help those relationships, you know, just as a tip to the young folks who are wanting to do this. It is a huge commitment for sure. And you know that. I've talked to folks who are like, you know, I just love it so much, but I can't get to that next step feeling confident enough in myself to be myself to make that step. I've got a family, right? It costs to get into this. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
guide school, if I choose to go to guide school. But I like what I heard as your tip. Be yourself. And it's about relationships. I think those two things are huge. Could play a big part in how people move forward if they decide to move forward. So it's a tough choice. And then of course we have to start thinking about something else. And I'm sure this has come up for you as well because you've been doing this for a while. It's like, dang, uh, I'm not fishing. I'm I'm working. And then it's, you know, when you move that hobby or pastime from, you know, where it's just you doing your thing to actually taking other people and going, boy, I need to take a day off so I can go fishing. I used to work in a fly shop where the guys were like, we need a guide day off, Bob. Can you come in and cover the store while we take off? So that can also play a part in it, right? Someone's like, oh, I still want to fish, but you know, got to kind of put money in the bank, kind of thing. What would your tips be for other supporting organizations? Do you know any that, again, we're talking about trying to help folks break into this industry, right? And I just happen to be a big fan of trying to be a support mentor, whatever, to people doing it. Are there organizations out there that you would highly recommend for people to get associated with?
Yes, I would also say one of the things that really helped me out also was when I started fly fishing. I mean, I didn't even know how to cast. There were fish 20 feet away. I couldn't get to them, and it was terrible. And I'm just looking like, oh, this is all. I went to one of the local fly fishing clubs. I was just at the pond hacking away, and some guys just came up to me and they go, this is kind of not the way to go about it. So they helped me out and they taught me some of the fundamentals, you know, of casting. And it really changed things. So I would say if you have access to one of the local fly fishing clubs in your area, I would say just go. I think that the fly fishing community as a whole are some of the best people that I've met. And it happened on rivers. A lot of times you'll run into them and they'll just, you know, they'll chat with you and they'll give you advice. And I've run into people like deep in the forest in Alaska. Hey, try these flies, and you try and do the same thing. But I would say you have access to fly fishing club, even like yourself, you worked in a fly shop. You know, fly shops are great. There's also events that fly fishing tour that's put on by,
Oh yeah.
you know, many different organizations. You know, go to those things if
Mhm.
you're able to, and just, you know, talk. You meet people, and it's funny that sometimes you just run into people at these events where you meet them and they become your fishing buddy. Uh,
Yeah.
or it turns into a resource, someone that can help. You know, go to to trade shows. I mean, there's the fly fishing show, and they have them all across the country. Say go to those shows and talk to people, go to booths, ask questions, just out in traffic, things that are fly fishing. I mean, it's one thing to we have all of this technology now. You could go on YouTube, you could go on the internet, you could type up, you could Google stuff, you could read it, but that's different than interacting with another human. Then you could actually ask
Yeah.
questions and say, hey,
Yeah.
well, and then you could have this interaction with and you could go back and forth. So I would say going to places such as clubs, going to different fly fishing shows, fly fishing trade shows, meeting people, talking to people, asking questions. I think that puts you in a situation where you're having some resources, you're building some resources, and then you could ask people questions. And then you could, sometimes they even have casting at those or demonstrations. So seminars. So I think that those are resources and they are, all across the country. I think that's a great way. So hopefully that kind of gives valuable resources or information to start from.
Well, that's good advice. I got to know you through our good friend Carl, who's a member of the Pasadena Casting Club, as I mentioned. But all of that came about through knowing someone else in your area who knew you, who said, "Bob, you need to know this person," and that's how this whole relationship started. And I just feel very, very blessed to have you in my life. And you're such a kind and generous person with advice and so on. You got to get out there, as you said, and basically you need to hit the road. And you need to become visible, right? You need to become visible. You need to show up at events, knowing people who know people, getting in the circle. So another mutual friend of ours is Tony Ogden.
Yes.
And we were talking about you just the other night, by the way. Tony was on a Zoom call with Carl and some other folks, and he was talking about spay casting. And he was talking about you now have a passion for that sort of thing and actually compete. And so does Tony, apparently.
Yes. Love Tony. Great guy also.
Yeah. So, but again, those sort of things don't happen just by chance, right? The meetings, they happen because we're out there and we're going to things and we get to know people. And then they say, hey, you should know this person. So your advice is just absolutely spot on. I love that approach of being yourself, being visible, right? Being seen. And the only one that I would add on there is as far as advice would be find people in the industry that are willing to help. Find people, because as you said, I have the same experience, Michael, that people in this industry overall are incredibly kind and generous and willing to help folks along, right? Other people, especially youngsters, if you're willing to be humble. And anyways, I've had the same experience. And so again, finding those contacts and I like folks to know if they're interested who I am and where I am and how to reach me. And I think that just serves us all well. And at some point, I'd like to talk to you about spay casting. Maybe we can do that on that time, because I know you love to do. I know I've heard you love to chuck long distance, and I love my trout spay to death. I love spay casting myself, so maybe that'll be a time for another show. I don't want to keep you. I really appreciate you, Michael, taking the time to do this, because I know you're incredibly busy. Anything else you would like to share about your experience that could be something important for someone watching this show to pick up?
Yeah, you know what? I just like to say that if anyone wants to reach out to me, please feel free, whether you just, want to reach out to me for some information, if you want to go fishing, or if you just need some help or you want some clarification of some things, reach out to me. There are a few things I know are universal. One of them, when people smile, how they feel. People frown, how they feel. And when people get hooked up on a fish, what's going on? Because that rod bends, and there's all types of reality that they get, from excitement to what do I do to help me, to OMG, to all types of things. But it's really awesome when you get to see people experience that. I don't know. It's I can't even describe it, but it's great. It's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
if anyone just needs some help, with anything or have questions, just reach out to me. Feel free. I'll help you out. I'll talk to you. I'll give you some advice. Maybe I can even help you not have to reinvent the wheel and
yeah,
save some
yeah,
time because there's
yeah.
so many things that go into this fly fishing thing that if you go, wow, if I had known that could have saved me, some years. That could have saved me some time. It's also another thing that I think is fly fishing is a never ending learning curve. I mean,
Yes,
every time I go
absolutely.
out, I learn something, whether I'm on the river, whether I'm on the ocean, and then fishing different parts of the country, I think is great too, because it allows you to put more arrows in your quiver. It makes you a better overall or more well-rounded fisherman because you have a different approach. The fishing concept is the same. You're trying
Yeah, yeah,
to trick those fish. You're trying to catch them, you're trying to make them bite what or strike what you have to offer. But it's great to understand the different approaches, and it helps out. And I'd love to give someone some insight if they need it. Feel free to reach out to me. And then I also like what you're doing too. Your organization, is very important. I like what you're doing with the kids involved, because starting at an earlier age allows a longer learning curve, a lifetime of fly fishing, and then be able to share that with others along the way. Yeah, I think it's great.
well, I appreciate that shout out. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned, or you, the name of your outfit. I mean, I'm rocking your brand right here, but I'm not sure folks can
Yeah,
see it.
yeah,
So, Long Branch, right? Long Branch Fly
yes,
Fishing.
yes.
Long Branch. Find them, Google Long Branch, track them down, track Michael down, Long Branch Fly Fishing. And I think I remember you told me the story of how that name came to be.
Yes, I did.
Happened to be a Gunsmoke, man.
Being a Western person, watching Gunsmoke one day on the couch, the Long Branch Saloon is where all of the calamity and just everything happened. I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, Long Branch, that's where everything is. So I thought, Long Branch fly fishing, is there one? And there wasn't. I actually had this patent attorney research that for me. Hence, it was born, created the art, and yeah, had someone else help me create the art because I am not an artist, but
Well, it's pretty impressive. I like, man. It's addictive. I got this right next to me. I've been wearing sporting this ever since you sent it to me. Well, Michael, again, thank you so much, and you have done a very good thing by you asked me not long ago, is there anything I can do? And I mentioned some things, and next thing I know, it's Christmas in February. I got a box from you of things that are going to help us continue our mission to get young people hooked on this passion, this obsession that we have with fly angling, because they are the future. They're going to take our place as environmental activists and members of casting clubs and so on and so forth. And so we're dedicated. Ubuntu is dedicated to helping that happen right in the future. And so working with young people, I just love it, and I love the looks on their faces, as you said, putting a fly rod in their hand that they've never had any contact with, don't know anything about it, and watching that magic happen. It's priceless, absolutely priceless. So I appreciate you, bro, for just saying anything I can do. And next thing I know, I get a box of things that we can really, really use. So appreciate you very much. And again, thank you for the time. I hope we get a chance to hang out again sometime soon. On the other side, as I mentioned, Ubuntu, we host our own show podcast called On the Reel. And so at some point, maybe we could transition to have you on that, or they might want us to count this as two rather than one. We'll see how that ferrets out. But bro, again, appreciate you. Thank you so much for being you, being yourself. And I love your enthusiasm and your passion for this wonderful thing that we do. So hopefully we'll see you again soon, Michael Peters and Long Branch Fly Fishing.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to our next meeting or
Maybe
interaction.
on the river.
Maybe on the river. That's right.
So everyone, this is Bob Bartlett. with Ubuntu Flying Anglers and iFishiBelong. And so we'll see you maybe on the other side. Maybe we'll even see you downstream. So bye for now. Bye, Michael.